Hey, it's Christine with Sweet Pea Pediatric Wellness, and today I just want to talk with you a little bit about my ideas as far as our hierarchy of needs, which is not a new concept, but I want to kind of tie it into our capacity as a human being and how this affects ourselves as well as our children who may have diagnoses of ADHD, ADD, oppositional defiant disorder, even dyslexia and autism. So a couple of things that I hear a lot from parents. I hear frustrations from parents that they don't know why their kids are acting this way, or why can't they act like everybody else in the class. And when I hear that frustration from parents, I think two things. One, the child may be just emotionally not as developed as their peers. And so even though they might be 5 or 6 years old, they may be acting more like a 3-year-old. And just like your physical development doesn't necessarily match everybody else in your classroom, the same thing with your emotional development. And there actually may be some reasons why, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. But if that's not the case, maybe your child's really experiencing a threat, or they feel like they're in danger, or they feel like they can't handle the situation. And these are reflexive responses in us. And if it's happening all of the time for your child, that they're always hitting this threshold of they go right into that fight, flight, or freeze response, then they are not handling this stress in a way that's healthy for them. And there's some underlying reflexes in their body that aren't working well. So let's talk about what a reflex is. We all have reflexes. We need reflexes. We need reflexes to protect us in dangerous situations, or there are primary reflexes that are actually embedded in our DNA, and that they begin to develop when we are in utero. And then they help us protect ourselves in the first 0 to 3 years of life. But more importantly, they lay the foundation for our mature responses. So they help us coordinate our body movements. They help us coordinate our emotions. They help us coordinate how we gather senses in from our environment. And then, of course, they help us coordinate our thought process so that we can use our thinking brain to the best of our ability. So it's very foundational to have primary reflexes that are well integrated into our nervous system, or that your nervous system, which is connected to your brain and they go out into all your extremities, is well mature and myelinated well. So myelination is what happens, the process of when the nerve is growing, and then it starts getting its protective coating, almost like how an electrical wire will be have good insulation around that wire, so that the information traveling along that path is nice and fluid. So let's think about that electrical wire. We have electrical wires in our homes, in all of our devices and everything. We use electricity, and really when it comes down to it, we are electrical beings. Our cells run off of positive and negative positive and negative electrons that need to be always having this gradient, so that we can be putting things into our cells and out of our cells. So at a cellular level, we are all electrical beings too. In our brains, again, and these our nerves connect cell to cell to cell, connect our brains to our muscles, and not even to mention like just the thinking part of our brain, how we develop ideas, how we sense emotions. All of those things are all connected by nerves, by these electrical wires. And so super important that we are being able to use the most efficient pathway, because our bodies really do want to be in homeostasis. But if something isn't easy for us, we kind of go and look for a workaround, which actually may be the harder route, but at the moment that we're doing the best we can with what we've got going on inside our bodies and our brains. So let's think about that electrical circuit. And if I were to build a brand new house right now, and I hired all my contractors to do all the jobs that need to be done, the electrician does not fully connect all of the wires in my kitchen. So fine, I don't know this, as you often don't know when you're building a new home, what's going on behind the walls. But the framers frame up the walls, they put the drywall up. Let's go ahead and get it all painted. I am ready to move in my furniture, I'm ready to move in my family, and then I plug in my Alexa or my Google Assistant into my kitchen outlet, and we get everything set up so that she's going to turn on the lights. I say, Alexa, turn on my lights, and nothing happens. Is it Alexa's fault? Is it that computer's fault that she didn't turn on my lights? Well, no, in this case, it's all the way back in the beginning when the house started being built, that electrician didn't fully connect all the wires. So maybe, in this case, some of the lights in the kitchen turn on, but not all of them. So if I really needed more light in my kitchen, Google can't help me right now because it can't access that pathway inside the wall, but I need more light. So I could open the windows, I could turn on, I could bring in lamps and lights from other rooms, I could light some candles. So I would have to do a lot of work to get that light in the kitchen how I want it to be. And that's how we respond when our nervous system isn't mature, when we have reflexes that are not well integrated into our nervous system for us. We ask our bodies to do something, and it doesn't quite give us the right response. And so we can still get to the right response, but we have to work incredibly hard. And often it takes us longer, it takes more effort to get that response the way we want it. And so I am a dyslexic learner who also has ADD. And I can tell you for a fact that, yes, I can learn, and I have to find that right way to learn. But my whole life has been gathering lamps and lights and candles from other rooms. I have had to work really so much harder than everybody, even to this day in my profession as a physical therapist, to get my notes completed on time. Yes, everybody has that to do, and everybody has difficulties with that. But for me, it is sometimes too much, too overwhelming for me to get that completed. I have to have all these systems in place for me to accomplish that simple task, where other people, yes, they have that work to do too, but they're able to do it more efficiently. I truly have to make up all these structures to support me so that I can be successful at completing that task. Just like if we need the lights on in the kitchen, we would have to bring in lamps and lights and open the windows and the candles, because that myelination or that the circuitry wasn't well prepared from the start. And so I'm not here talking about fixing our kids. I just want to make things more easier for them. So let's talk about what that looks like. So we're going to bring up a share screen here. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring up this whiteboard here. And I'm going to start with our highest capacity as human beings. So what makes us very unique compared to all other creatures is the sense of meaning that we can have in our life. And underneath this, we have passion and purpose. So, this is really what helps us be driven to do the things we do, and to help us be connected to other people, and to really just live our most fulfilled life. And when we have all these things, we're definitely working from a values level. So in order to be here in this area, in this capacity of a human being, we can be accessing our values, and that will help give us meaning and a drive of passion and purpose. Now, we don't always do things in that level. Sometimes we are kind of more driven by our power and position that we have in life. So this too is something that we as human beings have, but other animals too can try to gain power and position over other people. However, we think we're so smart here because this is using our prefrontal cortex and using our thinking brain. But sometimes that can really get in our way, because we think we know what's going on. But funny, there's all these other subconscious programs that we are running that we really don't necessarily have direct access to. And what I mean by that is it's there, but we don't really have a choice of how we feel. So this here is emotions. And here is our reflexes. And so these two lower levels belong to a lot of different species and animals. Even the octopus runs off of reflexes. Not too long ago, there was a little blurb in the news about an octopus that was about to kill a bald eagle. And really what was happening was it was the eagle that was trying to eat the octopus, and then the octopus reflexively attacked. So to protect ourselves in situations of danger, we have instinctual reflexive behaviors that we do: fight, flight, and freeze. Those are our three main ways to protect ourselves. And again, even the octopus has that. But then, mammals have abilities to feel emotions. And what do we need to bridge this gap between our reflexive level and our emotional level? Well, in order to do that, we need to be able to understand our senses. And we have 10 senses. So we gain information from our environment, both externally and internally. And so we gain information through our environment using our eyes, ears, taste, touch, smell. But also we have an interpersonal sense, how I get a connection with you, another person. Or we also have an interoceptive sense. And this one is so important and just now being talked about, but how I feel, not only how I know I'm hungry and how I know that I need to use the bathroom, but even deeper in the sense of how I feel with different neurotransmitters running through my body, different hormones in my body. And this triggers emotions. Um, Whether you consciously are aware that you're acting differently or that you're lashing out at somebody, if your hormonal levels are off or something is heightened, you are going to have different emotional responses. And the more we can start to kind of tune into this and can accept the sensory information, we can really start to feel what our emotions are. So our emotions are not things that we choose. We don't choose these emotions. These things are just kind of happening based off of sensory stimulus coming in either from internal stimuli or external stimuli. And if we don't have well integrated reflexes, we're going to go right back down to this reflexive behavior, this automaticity, that when I feel X stimulus, if my reflexes are not well integrated, I'm going to come right back down here. Now, let's say though that my reflexes are well integrated and I'm understanding emotions. Then I get to have the opportunity to easily make this transition up to using my wizard brain, they'll call it in school, or using that prefrontal cortex. But I'm only going to be able to make that transition easily if I have an awareness. So think back to when you were a younger child and your mom said, sit up straight, shoulders back, you're slouching. And you maybe didn't have any idea of what your mom or dad was saying to you. And that's because you didn't have an awareness. As soon as you develop an awareness of what you're doing, you can have the power to change something. You can start to use your prefrontal cortex in your thinking brain. And if not, if you don't have an awareness, it's going to be a lot harder for you, and you're going to have an easier time just kind of falling back down to your emotional responses. And if you don't have well integrated reflexes, then you're going to fall all the way back down to this reflexive response. All right, so here we are, power and position. That's like, when you're giving your 2-year-old a reward, or your 3-year-old a reward for good behavior. That works only so far, because pretty soon they realize that they can not manipulate you, but they can be in control of the situation. They can try to gain that power and position over you. Or think about our government today. So much is how much control we can have over other people. Well, really, we need to understand that we can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. And trying to control other people gets us stuck right here. But that's not our capacity as human beings. That's not where we want to live. We want to be able to get to this meaning level. And in order to cross this gap easily, we need to have a sense of belonging, connection between other people. Whether that connection is me over a video here just talking to you, if I speak to you and you hold these shared values and you have the same meaning and passion and purpose that I do, we can have that connection even over this video. That's not the same as fitting in. Fitting in is really keeping you down into this power and position level, because if you're just fitting in, you're doing things because other people want you to do them, not because you have a shared value or a shared meaning. But again, at any given time, you could easily fall back down to any of these previous levels especially if your reflexes are not integrated and you're hitting that threshold. So here we are climbing up the ladders, moving through to our highest capacity as human beings. But again, at any given time, we can fall back down to any of these lower areas, especially if we're reaching our threshold and that reflex is stimulated. But again, reflexes are there to be protective. So in the face of danger, if I was in the woods and there was a bear, I better have reflexes to use. Or even more simply, if I touch a hot stove, this is a little bit different type of reflex. It's a reflex arc that's happening. But nonetheless, I touch the hot stove. I don't even have to think that it's hot. I just automatically react. And those reflexes are super important to protect me so I can survive and move on to another day. But if these reflexes are not well integrated and I'm hitting that threshold of danger when I feel certain emotions, or when I get in a confrontation with somebody else, or when I am feeling like I just need to fit in with other people, um, and I lose sight of a shared value. Once I hit that threshold, I fall right back down to whatever reflex is not well integrated. So, as we think about our kids, we can work really hard at teaching them here. But if we're not in a calm and alert state, we're not learning. So if we are so frazzled and so chaotic with the sensory information coming in through those 10 sensory systems, internally and externally, we're not going to be able to understand our emotions. It's going to be very difficult to build an awareness to use that thinking brain. But this is exactly what we're trying to get our kids to do. This is like blaming that Alexa that my lights weren't working. And it's going to be even more difficult for us to get over here. We can climb this ladder. It's going to be just a lot more effort to do. And we don't have to work that hard. We don't have to work that hard. And that is why taking time to help better integrate the reflexes into our motor plan, into our emotional awareness, into our thinking brain will allow us to reach our highest capacity as humans. So thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope that cleared up a lot of questions that you might have any reading in my posts on Facebook. But as a physical therapist, I am teaching classes in person, as well as developing an online course, kind of talking about these underlying factors and how we can help our kids, help ourselves better integrate these reflexes. And if need be, we can work one-on-one together, either in person if you're here in Denver, or looking at some telehealth consultations. So Sweet Pea Pediatric Wellness is my pediatric company, and you can find that on Facebook, or you can always reach out to me at info@Sweet Pea Pediatric Wellness. Have a great day.